Various claims that countries around the world are now making decisions to limit emissions and prevent the average global temperature from rising more than 1.5 degrees Celsius.
South Africa's delegation is taking this green plan to the summit in the hopes of securing a financing framework.
COP28, the 28th meeting on climate change, is happening in Dubai, where its nations discuss strategies to combat the climate crisis. The main goals: achieving net zero by 2050 and keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The urgency: the world needs to cut emissions to avoid severe consequences such as climate disasters that are a consequence of increased global average temperatures. These effects have increasingly come in the form of droughts, extreme heat, wildfires, floods, and other extreme weather events that have devastating impacts on livelihoods, health, migration, food systems, and even increasing inequalities. This is especially urgent with the year 2023 projected to be one of the hottest years on record, as seen through extreme droughts across South Africa, soaring temperatures around the world, raging fires, and flash floods as a result of extreme heat. Developing countries are holding top emitters accountable for climate financing. COP28 focuses on increasing support to vulnerable nations.
Right now, as we sit comfortably here in this conference center in Glasgow, over 2 million of my fellow Kenyans are facing climate-related starvation. In this past year, both of our rainy seasons have failed, and scientists say that it may be another 12 months before the waters return again.
In 2009, global North countries committed to climate finance of $100 billion per year until 2025 to the global South countries. Year in, year out, these countries have failed to deliver on this promise in light of worsening climate disasters that leave global South countries having to fend for themselves. This COP28, global South countries are starting to put this figure back onto the negotiating table with a push to increase climate financing and put stronger measures in place to ensure that climate finance goals are met, and countries are looking to ensure that this commitment is set into place once the other expires. $1 trillion per year in external finance will be needed by 2030 for emerging markets and developing countries. NDCs, or Nationally Determined Contributions, are each country's climate action plan. South Africa recently updated its targets to combat climate change. COP28 will be the first time a global stock take report will be presented. This is a measure to review the global process of climate actions that align themselves with the goals of the Paris Agreement. The global stocktake will mainly review mitigation efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This will set the agenda for countries to review and renew their nationally determined contributions, their own country-specific climate action goals. At the heart of COP is the Paris Agreement, aiming to keep global temperatures below 2 degrees Celsius. Current warming stands at 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. However, challenges persist. Net zero and carbon neutral are key terms for emission reduction. South Africa's focus at COP28: increased climate financing. Representing South Africa is Minister Barbara Creecy. Watch for swift adaptation, a just transition to renewable energy sources, and transparency in negotiations. At the center of South Africa's negotiating position, which it negotiates under Africa Group, is ensuring increased climate financing, concluding the Loss and Damage Fund, and securing investment towards adaptation.
At COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, the big victory, I think, for developing countries was the formation of the Loss and Damage Fund. But of course, what we know is that how it will be financed, where the finance will come from, what the form of the finance will be, who will qualify to receive that financial support, those are issues.
South Africa was among the first countries to benefit from this partnership at COP26 when global North countries announced that they would provide funding, $8.5 billion to be exact, in the form of grants, loans, and concessional loans towards the shift away from fossil fuels from France, the European Union, Germany, the UK, and the US. However, the country needs 1.5 trillion rands to undertake a holistic, just energy transition by developing its green hydrogen sector, electric vehicles, and shifting its electricity sector to renewable energy sources. Last year, at COP27 in Egypt, the Loss and Damage Fund was announced, but many called smoke and mirrors on this announcement, as very little detail about the fund was laid out, i.e., criteria for funding, how much money countries donate, loss and damage definition, etc. As it stands, it's an empty bank account. This COP will hopefully determine and hash out all of these questions. Definitely want to watch closely, especially for global south countries that continuously bear the brunt of climate disasters, resulting in devastating loss and damage impact. COP28 is our global effort for a sustainable future. Stay informed, stay engaged. Follow Daily Maverick across all social media platforms for updates.